If you're new here, I'm Travis, full-time swing trader that's taken my account from $150,000 to a little over $1 million in the last 3 years. And I'm openly sharing my entire strategy and process. Each week, I take you through every position I'm holding and my favorite stock setups going into the new week. I walk you through the technical analysis and also share my exact positions, stop losses, and profit targets. If you find value in this, please hit the like button and be sure to subscribe. It keeps me motivated to continue sharing. Now let's get into the week ahead.
All right, gang, welcome back. We have a ton to cover today, and I'm going to try to keep it short as possible. So let's jump right in. The first thing I want to talk about real quick is just general market conditions. I am not bearish. I see a lot of people looking at the S&P 500, comparing it to where we were back here in February of 2025, a year ago. I just don't see it. We had the big drawdown here due to the tariff tantrum fears, etc., whatever you want to call it. I don't see those fears present today. Yes, we have a ruling on the tariffs, but it's old news. It's priced in. There's not a tariff catalyst right now. It doesn't mean there's not another potential catalyst. It doesn't mean we absolutely need a catalyst to go lower. But as we discussed before, there's just so many tailwinds right now for prices to go higher that I don't see it. I don't see the bear case. So I'm ignoring that for the most part. And the fact that so many people are fixated on this is another sign to me that it's unlikely to happen. What I do see in the S&P 500 are simply higher lows butting up to this horizontal resistance. And if we draw this, it is essentially an ascending triangle, right? Most times this will resolve higher. And that's what I'm waiting out. We've worked out the jitters for the end of the year. We're starting fresh. I think we're going to see this resolve higher here eventually. If we look at the NASDAQ, this is NASDAQ futures, so not QQQ, but futures. I keep sharing this chart on Twitter. We have this solid resistance zone in the 25, call it 25,870 range or 900, right? That's been rejected many times now. And then we have this kind of less significant zone in the 25,400 area that has been support here, resistance, and potential support again here as of Friday. The short story is we need to get above this zone and then head to all-time highs if we want to see this go higher. And I just don't see the panic right now. I don't see any huge concerns. Ultimately, we're stair-stepping higher. We're butting up against that zone, and we should break through it. So my position on the market is I'm still bullish. I'm still thinking that we are moving higher and it's a new year and it's time to hopefully get right to that. Now, getting into my positions, my holdings, I had a rough last week until Friday. I'm recording this on Friday. I had a great day today. And you can see these are my holdings right now. These are my current holdings right now. And my short list, my ideas list is actually really long. And we'll try to push through that as quickly as possible. And again, these all come from all this stuff, 200-ish stocks that I go through every single day and filtering through. I'm looking at the technical setups and what I think might be the most attractive setups going into tomorrow, or in this case, Monday. I'll do it again at the end of Monday and make a short list for Tuesday, et cetera, et cetera. And I move these stocks on the short list up to potential trades list, the ones that I think that are most interesting for that upcoming day. So let's go right through. I'll talk about RIG real quick. This is a holding I have in some retirement accounts, some not so actively managed accounts. And I just think we're going to see this. We're going to go over this, a lot of charts like this in the oil and gas energy kind of sector, but very nice looking chart rolling up, finally getting that 10 and 20 exponential moving average crossing over and moving higher. So I expect something like this to continue going to at least 450, probably much higher. If I look at zoom out on my chart here, we have 50% retracement from this big move down up here at 544-ish. So that was support here back in March 2023. This messy slop in this whole zone back in 2024. So somewhere in there, it's not an ultimate take profit zone for me. I think this could go much higher, but it has clearly rolled up on the daily. And we found support here recently ahead of the $4 mark. So I think this one's going to go higher. We've got a lot of setups that look like this in the energy sector. We'll go over in the short list, but let's keep moving along here. Sandisk, what a monster today. On Friday, it 16% higher, wouldn't stop. And it looks like it's trying to gap in after hours. I had a position, we covered this in detail, I know last week, maybe even the week before. And I was just waiting for this thing to pop on the daily. If I go over to this chart, it's a little bit cleaner. I've taken off the 10 and 20 EMAs and you don't see my positions, but we've been looking at this, call it 234 zone a lot. And we came down here perfectly Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, finally finding support there and finally pushed up off that with pretty strong volume. So I expect this to keep going higher. That said, I am keeping my stop loss pretty tight here, and I'm gonna just trail the rest of it up. So I took 250 shares off, finally got a profit target on that, and we're gonna keep trailing the rest, but it looks phenomenal. ONDS, Ondas, I have no idea. I know it's a very popular stock with retail investors right now. I got into this Friday morning. You can see my executions here. I got a really great entry on that 15-minute candle, and this thing just started pushing higher immediately. I said on Twitter that I would get my stop loss tightened up aggressively if this pushed new local highs for the day. It did, and that's where we are now. Hopefully it keeps moving. It's a high beta play, so if you're gonna toy around or tinker around with this, just be careful. Make sure you're zooming down onto those lower time frame charts to hone in on an entry, or simply size down, right? Because then you can widen your stop loss a little bit, give yourself a little more wiggle room, and hopefully the idea is this thing going to new local highs here and potentially, who knows, into the teens. But at this point, it's not a big position for me, and that's exactly what I did. I sized down because of the high beta nature of this stock, and I'm only trading about $100,000 worth, and I'm going to just simply trail this stop up and see how much it's going to give me. Great if you're already in it. Potential buy if you are into something like that's going to move and groove a lot. But moving on, this is ALAB. I have shared this, I know, probably in videos, definitely on Twitter this week. Let's start with this look where there's fewer things on the chart. I tweeted that we needed to get through this zone of resistance, but I also plotted the anchored VWAP from the last high on September 18th. And I said, we really need to get through this. You know, it's kind of resistance confluence with this zone as well. If you understand anchored VWAP, the lower you go in your time frame, the more accurate it gets because it's able to get more granular on that volume readings. So when we go down to the 15-minute chart, you can see that we did push through the anchor VWAP on Friday and came back through it and then back up through it again and finding support above that. So I think that's a really great sign that this name has had enough time now to consolidate. It's pushing through significant resistance, and I don't see any reason why this shouldn't head higher. Now, again, it is a high beta name. I was in this previously when we shot up here and came ripping back down, hit a target, trailed the rest, got stopped out on the rest, but it is volatile. That said, I think we're just getting started here. I would drill down in on this and find an entry. I do think that it's still very much a viable trade if you're not in it already. Again, size down, keep that stop a little bit wider, give yourself a little more wiggle room, and I think it's a great play for next week. NTES, China. It's a Chinese name. China is all of a sudden big again, right? Baidu, mostly thanks to Baidu. I missed that one, unfortunately. It was on my list to buy the day before it gapped up last week. Don't get me started. I changed my process a little bit because of it. But I did get into NTES, which is another Chinese name. This one, I wouldn't be touching a lot of the Chinese stuff right now. It's gapped and moved aggressively. I think a lot of people are going to be tempted to get into BABA. I'll pull that up real quick, largely because it's lagging. But my warning there would be it could be lagging for a reason. And we did outline this whole slog of potential resistance in last week's video. So I just don't think it's worth chasing these names, especially because there are so many other great setups right now. It's just not worth it, in my opinion. But if that's what you want to do, by all means do it. I think this NTES, I think it will keep going probably to new highs. It's not a huge position for me. I haven't taken any off yet. So I got the stop loss in profit and I'm trailing that higher as we hopefully continue to push higher. But it is consolidating here nicely for the day after a big gap higher. And it could be worth a buy or an add if it consolidates further and just tightens up. So I wouldn't chase, but China is a big theme right now. All of a sudden, we'll see how long that lasts. If it continues to persist, then I'll look for more entries. UMAC, unusual machines. I have no idea how this ended up on my list, to be honest, but as I do every night, I was looking for new ideas. I had this on my potential trade list going into Friday, and I had a plan. We were looking at it right in here, and I said, if this thing comes down at all, I'm going to be a buyer. And that's exactly what I did. You can see it gapped up initially, but came down with the market on this wick, and I was buying here, I was buying here, I was buying here, I just kept adding, because for me, this just looks like an A setup. It is a high beta name. It is going to be volatile, but the way this is curling up on the daily, the way it's pushing new local highs, the way it was setting up on the 15-minute chart, everything was just ticking my boxes. So I went a little aggressive on this one, and hopefully it'll work out. But I do think that if you're into the high beta stuff that's going to move, I don't see this one talked about a lot on Twitter. So I see that as a positive thing, and it just looks really great. So something that my first target's up here at 1470. I'll trail the rest and just see how far it'll take us. But I will not marry a position like this because I really don't know the company all that well. It is a lower cap name. I think it's $500 million market cap or something like that. So be careful when you're playing these kinds of names. Reddit, I do want to really dig in on this. Now, in previous week's videos, and this chart looks messy, so let's bump over here. In previous week's videos, I told you that I regretted being in this trade. I initially entered over here, way over here in like December 10th when I thought this was going to break up. I moved my stop loss down like a schmuck, and I've been trapped in this trade ever since. However, I have accepted my fate. And once I accepted my fate, I started seeing things more clearly. And I want to show you something I tweeted out last week. Let's bring this over here. I said, Reddit is very strong on red tape. Not only that, it's forming what Mark Minervini refers to as a cheat. See attached. If we can get above the upper bound, this should be able to move again. And this is a very clean view of it. We have this kind of move down, this move up, the sideways C section, and then D. Are we going higher here? And this just slapped me in the face because I was rereading Mark Minervini's book, and I was at this part the night before, and I saw what he refers to as a cheat, and I was like, holy cow. That looks exactly like Reddit right now. Exactly like Reddit. And that's when I started seeing the setup clearer. And I said, okay, I'm going to hold on to this. We're going to see what happens. It's consolidating nicely. Volume is contracting. Price range is contracting. This should work out. And sure enough, we had a great update on Friday. We busted through that consolidation. Highest daily close, if you go all the way back here, since September 22nd. So I think this still needs to stick the landing. I'd like to see us get up through this high that we made on December 18th, but huge potential here. I own some of this in a non-active trading account that I'm planning to just sit on. I do think this has huge potential to run at least 10, 20, 30%. If we get through these highs, who knows how far this thing could go. But one day at a time, I still do think that we need to see more of follow through to get through this zone. But I really do Reddit right now, and I'm holding on to, what do I have? My 1,500 shares. I will take half off. I'm a little heavy in this name right now. I'll take half off around 256 and just trail the rest. But awesome setup. If you're not in, I think it's a great time to get involved. Not financial advice, of course. Do what you are going to do. And moving on, Rocket. I had a terrible entry on this. I bought it on Tuesday on this breakout thinking that it was going to keep going. And breakouts just weren't working all week. And then it came dropping back on Wednesday on very light volume, which was a signal to me, okay, let me give this another day. And then on Friday, it came right back. So I'm sitting about break even on this. We have talked about this in previous videos. It looks really strong here, especially if we can start breaking up through this 20, 21 mark. I've got my first target here around 22, but then we're pushing like new, I don't think all-time highs territory. No, not quite. We had this big run up after the IPO, but basically, if we can get through this whole section here, This is a lot of overhead resistance. These guys that held it through this entire kind of drawdown, they've been selling. They've been selling here. They've been selling here. I don't think there's going to be much more selling pressure left if we can just stick the landing or push right through. I think it's a great trade right now. I think it's a great setup. It's early. It's not one that I'm trailing and I'm way up on. So something to look at if this works with your strategy. Bitcoin. I'm going to jump over the Bitcoin chart in a minute, but this does show my executions. It doesn't show my previous ones. This is my third attempt getting into Bitcoin. I scratched the last two. I think I had a $200 win, then a $1,500 win. And this one is finally, I think, going to go. And what I like most about the Bitcoin chart right now is this 1 hour look where we've got this push down, rounded bottom, and then we're pressuring this 90,000-ish zone. And if we can get through that, I have no reason to believe we're not at least heading up here to call it like, zoom out, call it like 94. And if we get through that, I believe we're headed to 100-ish. 100 right between here, 98, 99. And if we get through there, 107. So there's a lot of potential targets moving up. I just think the downside right now is limited. We're through tax loss harvesting. We haven't been able to go lower on even all that. And I think any kind of selling pressure that we've seen is just gone at this point. Not fully gone, but it's run its course. And if you look closely here, we are getting a 10-20 or very close to a 10-20 EMA crossover. For me, if I'm long or short a stock, that is a very big indication to get out. Okay, so I'm not short Bitcoin here, but if I were, I'd be wanting to get out. So if I want to get out of a short, maybe I want to get in a long, or vice versa. If I want to get out of a long and those are crossing over, maybe I want to be short. If you look back and you see the last time things crossed over, 10-20 crossed here, 10-20 crossed here, not a big run in either case. Down here, obviously, it's just usually it's constructive, right? So if this can keep going, I think it can. I just think it's a phenomenal mean reversion play right now. It's left for dead. Sentiment's terrible, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I like IBIT still here, or Bitcoin, however you want to trade it. I think it has a lot of potential to move at least 10%. 10% on 11,000 shares. I'll take it. I would be very happy with that. All right, keeping going here. NTR, Nutrien. This is one we've covered multiple times. It's potash, it's fertilizer, it's all this stuff that's not correlated to tech and high beta and yada, yada, right? You had a great chance to buy. I added, looks like I added up here, 452 shares. Yeah, I don't know. And I thought I was going to get stopped out. I'm keeping this stop in profit right now. I haven't taken any profits on this yet, but I've got this stop in profit, so I can't hopefully lose unless this were to gap down big on me. But if you remember in previous weekly videos, I just think it's a beautiful setup. You've had this huge round bottom, you've had this big consolidation, bull flag, and now we're breaking through, right? So I'd love to see this push at least to 72. If it gets above that, I think you're just trailing and forgetting about it for a while, letting it work its beautiful magic, hopefully much, much higher. So I still think this is a great one to be in, not high beta. So if you're an action junkie, not for you. If you're an action junkie, you probably shouldn't be trading, but that's another story. I'm just saying, if you get into this one, stay a little more patient. It's not going to move 10% in a day, or it shouldn't. If it does, that'd be awesome, but I doubt it. Nabors Industries. This is one I started on Friday. I tweeted about it. If you're not following me on Twitter, why? I tweeted about this. It is in the energy space, and it's just a beautiful setup. So let me go back to the daily. I saw this breakout here on Tuesday, and I was super tempted to buy it, but breakouts just were not working. So I was like, all right, I'll give it a day. I gave it a day, and it came back down, but closed off the lows. And so Friday, when this was setting up, I knew I wanted to be a buyer. I basically didn't take any heat on this trade. Got it here, got in a little more here, so 1,000 shares there. And I would be tempted to add here again, but I just have so much stuff on right now that it doesn't make sense for me to do. But I love the setup. It's going to be a slower mover. Even if you look down on a 5-minute, you can see how it's a less liquid name. Use those limit orders. Don't go to market, stuff like that. But you're going to see this kind of move a little bit slower. It's not a high beta play. But overall, I love the potential here. I love the potential in the energy, oil, gas, et cetera space right now in general. TECK, Teck. This is another one I've been holding for a bit. You can see our initial buys. I haven't been holding it that long. 3,000 shares here back on, what is this date? December 29th. I don't know when I put on the first 2,000. I think it was earlier than that. And they're not showing up here. But looks very constructive, right? It's trading above all of the moving averages. The 10 and 20 are aligned. This is what we call purely aligned. The 50 on top of the 150, on top of the 200, and the 10 and 20 moving higher. It's beautiful. It looks perfect. But again, not a high beta play, which is not a bad thing. Just want everyone to be aware of what you're buying, what you're trading. But this thing moving up to this zone somewhere, 50s, low 50s, which is not a big move from here, is not out of the question. So I'm just letting this one kind of do its thing, grind higher. If it does break above those highs, obviously we'd be looking more toward 60s, etc. It's a name for me that's diversified from all the tech, all the high beta stuff that we're trading, all the crypto stuff, etc. And something I can just crank my stop loss up, crank it up, and hope that it just keeps working for me. Let's see. Okay, so that's it for all my positions. If you don't see a position that was here in last week's video, it's because I got stopped out or I manually closed it. Something like Zoom, I closed out of because it just wasn't moving. Roku, same thing. I was stopped out of AbbVie and others today, but let's look at what I like for next week so far. Oil and gas, I'll go back to it. These things are looking like monsters. So what we had here is we had a really strong month from like November through early December. And I was in on a lot of these names. And that's why I had a really good week, the first week of December, but then they gave up a lot of gains and consolidated. So a lot of my trailing stops got hit and I just got taken out of all of these positions. But they're setting up now. I don't know why exactly. I've said this repeatedly. Oil's not ripping like crazy, but these things are all looking amazing. So let's go through them all quickly. Or when I do hit one here, we'll go through it quickly. Murphy Oil, really strong breakout today. Going down to the 15-minute chart is where I like to look for potential setups. If we can come down and consolidate on these highs, somewhere in this like 32-ish zone, which is not that much lower, maybe even lower, 32 to 32.20. If we can come down through here, if we just close this gap with these other moving averages and tighten up here, it'd be what I would deem an interesting entry point. You're going to see this a lot in all these names. TALO, same thing. It needs to get above this 1130 zone and keep pushing. This is something that I might front run as long as you're comfortable with the amount of risk and where your stop loss is. Stop loss probably 11-ish. Front run it somewhere in this 1120 zone. And if you bump it out to the daily, same look as Murphy, right? Really strong green candle, kind of breaking through this range or almost. Volume's not super strong, but decent. So something to pay attention to, especially with the 10 and 20 day. If you zoom in here, the 10 and 20 day moving averages, the EMAs are the 10s crossing the 20. Really beautiful setup in my mind and potential to go at least to 12, probably higher. I just like all these names a lot. Shifting gears a little bit, Marvell Technology. This is more high beta. Honestly, don't know what they do, but it is on my radar. It is rolling up on the daily. It's a little sloppy, but if you like high beta stuff, if you know this name, it is setting up really nice on the 15-minute chart. We made the turn here. The moving averages crossed up. It keeps undercutting it, which I don't love, but these are also now finally starting to look more aligned and just more fluid. So any weakness here, you could be a buyer. I don't think this would be super high on my list, just given the look on the daily is so choppy, but something to keep in mind for sure. Taiwan Semiconductor. It's been a beautiful chart. I tried to get it in once I got shaken out, but just a phenomenal run on Friday. If you were to get into this one, I would say wait a little bit, see if we can get some more consolidation. Again, I'm probably not chasing here, but if we were to get like a dump, a puke, I would probably look to be buying. But overall, this should be a phenomenal trend. This thing's just getting started. It goes on these monster rips, and it's finally through a how many month consolidation? 3-month consolidation. So it's looking great. Above average volume here on Friday. This is one to really love. It would be something I'd be buying on any weakness. Array Technologies. We're solar here. Solar, I have a love-hate relationship with. I did well with it earlier in 2025, but it's been so jumpy. It's so hard to predict, and it takes forever to unfold. That said, the setup's looking nice. We've been banging up against this like $10-ish zone for a long time, since August. And if we can finally get through it, we should see some real progress. If you go down to the 15-minute, pretty choppy. I wouldn't get involved until we're probably like pushing through this local high from Friday, but then I would be a buyer here if I have room. These are all ideas I'd love to be in right now, but I'm fully allocated at this point. So things I'm looking for if I take positions off or clear up some inventory. Halliburton was one I was going to buy a couple of days ago, did not end up pulling the trigger, but beautiful. And I was in this on this initial run as well, then got taken out on my trailing stop. But absolutely gorgeous, making a new local high. Again, energy, oil, gas, etc. If this comes down into these moving averages, again, I'd be looking to buy. SLB, same kind of thing, right? It had a great run here on Friday. Like any weakness, I'd be a buyer. This is not quite through new local highs yet. It's making the turn on the daily. So we could see some more chop with this. Definitely not as strong as something like, in my opinion, Murphy, which is already got these moving averages stacked up and purely aligned. So keep that in mind, depending on what you want to play. I would favor something like Murphy personally, or even Halliburton over the look on SLB. It's just not as mature. A lot of people will be drawn to that thinking, hey, I'm gonna get into the catch-up play, but sometimes these are catch-up plays for a reason, and the outperformers just keep outperforming. So keep that in mind. Applied Materials. Another one I really like on the daily. Just looks beautiful. Looks like it's going to go for new all-time highs here. I think they're all-time highs. Definitely local highs, right? Yeah, all-time highs. But also feels stretched a bit, or that it could use more time. That said, I love catching these things where the 15-minute looks like this, where we've already chiseled our way through the 200 moving average. The 50 and the 150 have moved up and through, and are starting to get that second wave. So you've already gotten these kind of sellers that got trapped through this kind of junk. They've already gotten out of their shares, and now we're moving again. And this is a wave that I like to be involved in. So I think that if you do get a little bit of weakness or tight consolidation in this range down here, and these moving averages come up a little bit, I think it's a great risk reward play. Something definitely on my radar. AMD, same kind of thing. Look how we've come through this 200 moving average on the 15, consolidated sideways, boom, moved up. And now everything's moving nicely up, almost in that 45-degree angle, that perfect, purely aligned stacked formation that we like to see. In terms of the daily chart, it's not as attractive because we're still below the 50-day moving average. But if we can get through that, a lot of room to run higher. You've got the 10 and 20 EMA almost doing the cross up. So you're almost there, but I like it a lot. Keep moving, guys. I got a lot of room to cover, and we're at 32 minutes. GE Vernova, I think I'm saying that right. GEV, beautiful. I was in this. I got this gap up on earnings. Then I got shaken out of my trail, but we've broken through. If you slap this line in here as resistance or support and then resistance, we broke it through. So this looks awesome. It looks like it's ready for new highs. And if you drill down to the 15-minute, it's a little extended, but not terribly so. If you get any kind of weakness down into this 670 zone, these moving averages are so close. It's easy to define risk. I'd get it below this 660 mark and hopefully just let it work for you. Okay. So I think that's a great opportunity as well, or a great potential play. APA, another oil gas play. We've come again, over and over. We're seeing this in the sector, which to me demands our attention. That said, we don't want to get overextended. You want to buy every single name, but allocate something to the space. Not financial advice, but we've come through this. Everything's moving up. We've got that 45-degree look, purely aligned. It's beautiful. Any weakness, I'd be a buyer. Any consolidation, I'd be a buyer. Daily looks awesome. Again, compare this to something like SLB, which is more like in this phase. This is just more mature in terms of the trend to me. And I prefer to be in this, getting that 10, 20, almost crossing up. You've got a nice breakout here. So this should keep working. It should keep working. It should go for new local highs. It should, right? Probabilities are on our side, but not a guarantee. CEG, Constellation Energy, energy, right? Nice looking to a degree. Had that fade today, which I don't love, but this looks like it wants to break higher. volume was strong on the day. And if you go down to 15 minutes, this is, again, we've chopped around after getting through. We're getting that first kind of wave, that push higher. So again, I'd be looking for more tighter consolidation, not necessarily more weakness, but if it comes, I might be a buyer. It's a great looking setup and something I would want to own. I don't know why we wouldn't see a new local high here. Valaris, another energy name. I don't love this as much. Reason being, it just came down so much from that last high. If we look here, it had a 22% correction, which isn't like a deal breaker, but it just does seem pretty deep, especially when we have names like Murphy that corrected 10%, which if I showed you Murphy that corrected 10%, and I showed you, who are we looking at? Val, that corrected, was it 22%? Which stock do you want to buy? You want to buy Murphy, you guys. You don't want them to think, oh, Valaris is cheaper now. It went down more. It's going to go back up higher. Maybe, but why wouldn't you buy the stronger one? Why wouldn't you buy the leader? You should. That's my point. Don't get obsessed with dumpster diving. It could work out, but I would much rather buy the one that held up the most, the relative strength, than the one that went down the most and thinking I'm getting something on discount. It's usually not how it works. Same thing here with Tidewater. It's sloppy. It's definitely making the turn. It's looking constructive, but it looks a lot different than your Halliburton or your Murphy oil, etc. So I do this a lot. You can easily define your risk below the 200. It's only a few bucks lower, and you have the potential to move back up to 60 and beyond. Great risk reward potential. And that's why it's on my radar. If I had to choose, gun to my head, I'm taking something that held up better. But look how beautiful these moving averages are coming up on the 15-minute, and it's just hopefully going to catch that price and just keep pushing. All right, that's the idea. DVN is another oil and gas. Devon Energy, over and over, we're seeing this. I like this a lot better than Tidewater, right? It is pushing up against these local highs, which go way back. We're in this area, this whole area from way back in September 2024. This thing's going to go. It should go real nice. I like this probably better than a lot of them. It feels like a more mature Tidewater. It'd be like if Tidewater got up into this zone and it was just knocking and primed. So I like it a lot. 15-minute chart. Let's just zoom down to that real quick. Any weakness, got to buy it, in my opinion. You got to buy some of these. Can't buy them all, but you got to buy some. ConocoPhillips, a bigger name, obviously a more household name, but just doesn't look as mature in terms of how constructive the chart is, in my opinion. I'd like to see it get up here, do a little one of these, maybe this, finally get through. Something like that. Not perfect, but basically, I'd like to see it consolidate more. I'd like to see these moving averages roll up more. Like the 200 is barely moving up, if at all. So it's still in its infancy phase for making the turn, in my opinion, but it's on my radar. All of these are on my radar. FANG, same thing. It's just not as mature in terms of a trend reversal, like something like DVN. I'd much prefer DVN, but also on my radar. But if I had to choose, again, I'm choosing something else. Okay, shifting gears. Let's finish up energy here. NEE, another one. Again, look at how I like the chart overall. If I had to buy it, I wouldn't hate you for it. It's come down. It's only come down 10%, which is not terrible. But what I don't like about this move is that it came and violated. It came back through that previous local low, right? So if you go back again to something like Murphy, did it violate that low? No, there was no real local low that it violated. It had this structure and now it's pushing up. So don't love it as much. I was in this one with this move earlier, but to me, what we've had happen is we had the initial move in this sector. We had the consolidation, and the consolidation is what's going to show you the leaders in the next wave. To me, it's probably not NEE. It's more something like Murphy or Halliburton, etc. Be mindful when you're looking at these charts. And that's why I have all these on the list, is I'm still parsing through them. I haven't moved many of these up to the potential trade section, right? It's like I've got the bullpen, I've got who's on deck or whatever. And my sports metaphors are not the greatest, but I hope you get my point. DocuSign is on my list as a short idea. I was going to short this. I didn't do it, but it just looks horrific. And it got on my radar because I was using Google Drive, and they have a new electronic signature thing. And I was like, wow, how the hell does DocuSign survive in a world where Google is making this just a feature instead of a company? And it looks terrible. You don't even need to draw the line to see, because price is already here, but it broke out of this base, which I love to see. I love to see these base breakouts. But it broke out of this base, and now it's just been like flaccid. It's just been bouncing lower and lower. And this thing is it's going to keep breaking lower, in my opinion. That said, if we're in a bull market, I'd rather be buying stuff than trying to short stuff. However, if we do get up through that resistance in NASDAQ and start pushing all-time highs, and we get a little extended, these are the names I'd like to look to short. Because if this pops up here again, I'd like to just whack it when I feel like maybe the market is getting a little overextended. So it's not on my list for a short. I'm not going to be taking it, but I just wanted to show you guys that, to show you how I think about things. CVS, not really a high beta name at all, but looks phenomenal. Daily chart is breaking out of this bull flag. This is the last one we'll talk about, guys. And 15-minute looks very solid, right? It just, we've gotten that roll up and purely aligned formation on the moving averages. And I would expect a little more consolidation, hopefully, and then continue to move up. Again, it's not going to be a fast mover for you, but if you are new to trading, you don't want to be in the high beta stuff because it's harder to learn. It's going to be noisier. It's going to be more emotional for you because you're going to see bigger swings. I would start focusing on things like this, where you can sit and you can watch it and you don't freak out and you learn something. I think it's a great play for somebody that's newer to the trading world. But again, not financial advice. Okay, guys, that is everything I have today. Looks like we're right around the 42-minute mark. I'll do all my editing. I'm sure it'll be a little bit shorter. So thank you for hanging in there. Thank you for making this fun. Again, follow me on Next, subscribe, all that stuff, and I'll keep doing it. All right. See you guys.